the voices will be exactly the same, I guess.
Yeah, it hopefully should. But it's like the first pancake. The first thing never goes well. So hopefully
Yeah,
next time we're gonna be more prepared and have a.
yeah. I'm actually thinking we like music, but it's a little bit too late. Oh, well, I can add some music, but let's first start with a general overview of the spec, maybe. Now, yeah, Juno, can you
Yeah,
just give us a brief introduction of what the spec is like? How does it play? Um, yeah.
you betcha. Before I go into specifics, though, I would like to preface that, well, the origins of the build, if you can say that. So I'm in contact with Dexter Bravo, who is one of the guys who helped make the Spelladin as we see it right now into something realistic, and he helped me with some clarity into the history of it. And the first prototype Spelladin was from a guy called Exodia, um, and his itemization were a bit unrealistic. It was in sort of full best in slot. We have been raiding for 2 or 3 years, Naxon farm thing. Um, but he was still the first person to introduce the idea of manual crowd pummeler and spell power gear on a red paladin. Um, and then a guy called Despotus made a sheet um, that happened to make it clear to some degree of guarantee for now that helped us know what sort of item combinations there were best for this build in particular. And then, of course, Dexter Bravo, the Hammerman, he made the first Spelladin video and then sort of made the term Spelladin, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's providing armor sets, video guides, and everything. Also on Classic WoW Live, he has a page. Um, and then he and some other people has a Discord um, dedicated for Spelladin theory crafting. And honorable mentions, of course, is Thelorus and Holy Frog. So yeah, there's the the origin of the build, if you can say that.
Maybe
Yeah.
we can try and make the build on the stream. I will have to put it on the webcams though, but let me try something. Um,
So while Tom is doing that,
yeah.
how does the spelling work? What do you do? What abilities do you use? How does it look?
Well, the entire idea is that you're just changing up your gear set. You don't really do anything else than switch out Seal of Command for Seal of Righteousness, and then you just make sure you stack as much spell power gear as possible, and then you just use manual crop tumblers from Numragon. And it's the idea is you make it so you attack very fast, and then you can use all sort of procs from Shadow Oil and things of the just general consumables. So you just attack fast and you stack a lot of spell power gear.
Okay. So how does a crowd pummeler inflict with the spell power? Is it your shield that does the damage, or is it your white wings?
It's both actually. A, a pretty decent geared Spelladin are critting for somewhere around 1k with MCP, so it's not too bad. So the majority of the damage is actually it's sort of 50-50, I would say, at least from what we can see on the parses in the beta sheets.
Why is a spell better than just a regular retribution?
Mainly from what we've seen on the private service and on the beta is that it's almost twice the damage compared to the spec of, for example, Esfand. Um, but on the beta, we have seen some pretty jarring issues, especially with Shadow Oil and other consumables and Judgment of Wisdom not proccing on Seal of Righteousness, and it's a hit. But all in all, it's still like 20 or 25% less damage than that on private service, which may seem like a lot, but even if we only make it so we can do the same or slightly less damage than a regular AP red, there's still the benefits of having no loot competition. And this like tier 2 is probably best in slot forever. So that's a lot of loot you're gonna be giving to a lot of other raiders in the raid group.
So you say tier 2 is the best in slot gear for Spelladin?
Yeah.
Wow. Tier 2 is my favorite set, so yeah, that's quite interesting actually. So I can put this over, let's put it over Papa MooNN set, like that.
Okay.
So yeah, I cannot put it over my head, and it doesn't show.
Can
Juno anymore.
you link it to me?
Yeah, it's Bobo talent, so that's.
Oh, fuck you and your Bobo.
All right. So which talents? Which can you see it, Juno?
It's not up on my screen yet. Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so which talents should I pick for the Spelladin build?
Right. So the spec is rather volatile right now because we're in a process of trying to establish, should we go more hybrid gear or should we just go still pure spell gear?
So we can go over quite a few different builds maybe, but maybe we can start with the most basic Spelladin build, if there is one.
Yeah, the most basic pure DPS one is, let me see here. Let me load it up.
Yeah.
Let me just trying to fix it here. Just a second. As well. Gonna remove myself. Some to that.
Is the music okay? Or do you hear any music? Because I think I
can't
added.
hear anything.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
Okay, good.
Yeah, that's fine.
Right. So do you have a talent build open?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we start with the Blessing of Might or with the seals?
We start in Holy Tree actually.
In the Holy Tree. Okay.
How do you... Can you start leveling as a Spelladin, or do you have to go like a leveling spec and then respec when you hit 40 or 60 before you can roll the Spelladin?
You can definitely level as a Spelladin. But there is a, what's it called? A lack of spell power gear during the leveling process. So most of the time, it's actually just more beneficial to go Seal of Command with a decent weapon, and especially Verigan's Fist when you get to level 20. It's gonna carry you for so much.
All right. So if you start leveling it with it, I guess you start with Divine Strength, or do you go with Divine Intellect?
You go in Divine Strength, yeah.
Okay. And then?
And then improve Seal of Righteousness.
All right. I guess you take Consecration as well?
Yeah.
Okay. What's next?
But that also means if you want to do a dual leveling with a Warlock, that's really good.
Exactly.
Except you don't have your spiritual focus, so the healing might be an issue if you're getting a lot of damage in from mobs. But
yeah, but you can just
still do it.
Just switch improve Seal of Righteousness for spiritual focus. Yeah.
All right. So what do you take after Consecration?
Then we go into the Prot tree.
All right.
And take 5 out of 5 readout, and then 3 and 3 precision.
Okay. And then?
And then you move into the Retribution. And you go 5 out of 5 Blessing of Might.
Okay.
And 5 out of 5 Benediction.
Before we get out of hand,
yeah.
In the plot tree, why do you choose readout over improved devotion hour? Are you using a shield as a spell then, or using a two-hander?
The idea is you get more value out of readout than you do a devotion aura improved, because as a red paladin you can also just swap on a shield, and just thus by that you have the benefit of the readout. And in most cases, you'll be running Sanctity Aura at all times or Retribution Aura. So the cases of where you'd be using a Devotion Aura is so negligible that it doesn't warrant the talent points.
That makes sense. That's quite interesting, actually. Yeah.
But wouldn't it be a good idea to you maybe get the improved devotion aura instead of the readout due to raids, so you can actually buff people with it?
That's up to the paladin team of the given raid group.
I think.
Obviously you could do that, but the idea is that you'll be always using Sanctity Aura.
Yeah. So if you use Sanctity Aura, you will never use Devotion Aura anyway to buff anyone. That's right.
Indeed.
Yeah.
And if this build were the one to be using improved Devotion Aura, there would be situations where you would be out of range for a Sanctity Aura, or that you would want another Spelladin in the raid group. So it's just it's a flat DPS loss not using Sanctity Aura. So yeah, that's the reason.
Okay.
All right. So, we have Benediction. We have improved Blessing of Might. What is the next thing you take?
Then it's improved Judgment.
All right.
And improved Seal of the Crusader.
Okay. Is that going to be your main seal, or why do you take that?
No. That's the idea for. You can't use it in the raid scenario because of the 16 debuff slots, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you get more out of it in dungeons, for example, or just general solo content. But in the sense for leveling purposes, I would say go into deflection instead. Parry haste is such a good bonus. It's almost invaluable, at least for leveling.
Okay, so
especially considering we'll be swinging auto attacks left, right, and center.
So you basically take it for dungeon content, mainly the Seal of the Crusader.
Yeah, there's also the that's the idea going around right now, that we'll be sort of, let me introduce a term called seal weaving. I haven't fully understood it yet, but there's a lot of better experts than me, who has fared well better in this. But apparently you can do some sort of thing where you just have Seal of the Crusader on, and on cooldown you switch to Seal of Command and Judge Seal of Command, and then you switch back to Seal of the Crusader. And by having improved Seal of the Crusader, you obviously get a lot more attack power.
Okay.
Whilst using it, right? But that's again, I said the build right now is so volatile; it changes up so much. So I'd say that those 3 points are sort of
go anywhere, basically.
Variable, yeah.
Would it be a possibility to have a 16 debuff slot devoted to the Seal of the Crusader debuff in the raid environment?
For one red or Spelladin in a raid group, I would not advise it. But if it turns out to be a very popular spec and it does a lot more damage than we just, well, from what we see right now, it could be beneficial if you had quite a few. And especially if you start doing some, that's like a borderline dream I have, is to make like a 40-man paladin raid where you have, well, just make like 20 paladins and then 20 holy priests, for example. So you could just boost as much holy damage as possible. So you would just be having Spelladins, Retribution Paladins, and Smite Priests. And Holy Priests. That would just be so cool.
Yeah, that sounds really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we have those talents in the red tree, how do you move on?
Yeah. Then you go 5/5 Conviction.
Okay.
And then 2/2 Eye for an Eye.
Eye for an Eye.
Yeah.
All right. Why do you take Eye for an Eye?
Well, I haven't confirmed this yet. I would need Dexter Bravo to come in and help me with this, but I would assume that the damage scales based on your spell power. So when you do get hit, well, crit, you would do some more damage as retaliation, sort of. But there's also the aspect of PvP viability, and we'll get into that later. And it's a really good talent, but that's also variable. You could do, well, improve Retribution Aura if you want if you figure you'll be farming DM East quite a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right. So we move on to. Can we go to Sanctity Aura now?
You can go in Sanctity Aura and then 3/3 Weapon Hand specialization.
Yeah. Okay. How
And then
many
a
talents do
5/5
we have
Vengeance.
left? All right. Let's see. And then we have one left, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and that one talent that can go in a multitude
Into
of
Seal of
spots,
Command
right?
or Repentance. So that's the general pure DPS one.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can get my hands on my Prey Best in slot gear with some pieces of hit, with hit chance, I would be going like 20-0-31, and then just opt out of the prot tree entirely.
Okay. So, if you take away those talents, where would you put them?
Then you go, let me see here. Then you put the 4 points in Divine Intellect,
Mm-hmm.
and then just 5/5 Illumination.
Illumination. Yeah. And then you can basically take Divine Favor instead of. No, you can't. No, you can't.
You could if you switch around a few points in the red tree, but it depends on the situation and your in your gameplay style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if you do a lot of dungeons, for example, Repentance is a good CC. If you're the more off healer, it would be good to have that Divine Favor, for example.
So, as a Spelladin, you will never go to Holy Shock?
No.
Alright, so
Th-
Holy
th-
Shock...
then we get into the idea of a Shockadin.
Yeah. So they are basically totally different things.
Yeah.
Alright. Okay. That gives quite a good idea of how the class plays right now when seeing the build. Papa
My
MooNN.
personal favorite is the one with the 5/5 Illumination because you can heal pretty efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems interesting to me. I
Build
kind
is very
of
versatile.
miss the Seal of the Command just because I like it in the PvP scenario, but I guess you don't use it that much as a Spelladin, or you don't use it at all. I guess
Sorry?
the
Say again?
Seal of the Command, you don't use it at all in the PvP scenario because you
In the
don't
later
take
builds,
it right now. Yeah.
in the later builds of the, well, from what we've seen, especially with the seal weaving tactic, Seal of Command may be the go-to, actually.
Oh,
So
that's interesting. Okay.
yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see it on the live servers how it actually turns out to be.
Yeah. We have quite a few questions, and especially since we figured out that there is dynamic damage scaling on the spells. We have figured out that Seal of Righteousness, well, just all seals in general, but especially Seal of Righteousness, scales dynamically with the level you have. So and it will stop 2 levels prior to the new rank of the spell.
Mm-hmm.
That means that the numbers we have on the last rank 8 of Seal of Righteousness, which is the tooltip we have been using as a base in the beta sheets, in determining the potential of the build, it may just increase, or it may just stay put because we learn it at 58, and we've been using those numbers in a level 60 raid scenario. What if it scales 2 more levels?
Well, it does scale two more levels. I think that's what the beta told us, right? Well, we didn't go to level 60, but all spells seem to scale. So did you test it on the numbers of the spell, or did you really test it on what the private servers say the damage is at level 60?
We tested it on the base damage of the spell from what we had on private servers, which coincidentally happens to be the numbers of the 58
Oh,
rank.
really?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought that private servers actually had the level increase as well, but it was just delta because the tooltip doesn't update. But I
On
thought
private servers,
yeah.
the spells in the game does not dynamically scale based on what level you are. So we had quite a lot of people confused and report this as a bug. It's also the case on early levels of Smite or early ranks of Smite on the priests, and it's pretty weird, actually. There's some sort of phantom coding going on, I would say, and that's just me saying this based on our observations, but it's definitely weird. But we may see a damage buff to the base damage of the Seal of Righteousness at 60.
Where you were testing this build on private servers, right?
The beta testers who have access were testing it on the beta, yeah.
Okay, but that was only level 40, right? Classic beta, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, they did some work when the AV test came out as well.
Yeah, so that was 58. Yeah, okay. Yeah. But I know Light Hopes made a new server called Silver Hand, and I'm pretty sure that's made of the beta classic settings, if I'm correct.
I would not know that, actually. That's a good
think that's the whole idea why they made it to, like, because now they could like get the settings from the classics, so they are correct compared to the old servers.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Wouldn't it be an idea to like see if you can get a 60 paladin in there and start? Maybe you don't have the time for it, but like test it out in there beforehand, so you can actually see if it's viable or not. Might be also some people are already working on it.
I'd have to convey this information because I was not aware if they'd be using the numbers from classic beta.
I would not see why they would post a new server 2 months before classic release, if not because of the server settings.
Yeah, I heard they are using a few of the things of the beta, but I don't know they use everything of the beta. I don't know if they use all the settings they gathered from
that would be so difficult.
But then again, this is data mining, and I think they can collect everything they want from the servers. Because most likely some of them on that private server has access to the beta test and probably gave the information onwards. So that's why I'm thinking that the new server is like classic.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Up until level 40 at least.
Yeah.
But I think the classic server was comparable to available to 60 with all the settings and everything. You just capped at 40, but the game was made finished and everything. So I think they got everything they needed for it. But this is maybe something we should look into and see if it has all the correct settings. Because I only knew because I was playing. I tested it out at the first few weeks. They had the increased respawn on mobs, so it was a nightmare. But that's the only thing I think they changed, and it's back to normal now again. I'm pretty sure.
I couldn't say for sure. I haven't been on it.
Okay, so let's go a little bit into detail about rotation. What would be like the typical rotation in a raid environment for the Spelladin?
Again, depends on what sort of mana issues we'll be getting, but the idea is judge on cooldown, use consecration on cooldown, and use whatever you have of consumables on burn phases, and just, as boring as it sounds, auto attack. But yeah,
that's classic for you.
So depending on it might be with a Seal of Command or a Seal of Righteousness, depending on the judgment weaving thing, right?
Yeah, and there's also the aspect of downranking, and consecration. If you downrank consecration 1 to 2, depending on the mana issues, it's gonna help out a ton.
And how much damage is your consecration out of your total damage?
Let me load up the sheet right now.
Because is it only good to use that on AoE packs, or do you also use it on solo bosses?
You use it on single target. It's quite a lot of damage.
Okay.
I can't give you a percentage right now, but it's quite a chunk.
Okay, so it's actually usable.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's also the aspect that the scenarios ring from AQ, I believe. Wrath of Cenarius. It has a spell power proc. Like when you deal damage, you proc this spell power bonus, and right now it seems to be proccing based on each tick of consecration.
Okay.
So it's gonna help the uptime of it.
So I was just thinking because consecration is also very good for AoE tanking, and it's totally out of the box. But would it be possible to have a solid paladin tank with spell power gear? You think?
You're thinking like a Fury Warrior?
Yeah, but yeah, with the shield. So not exactly. But I was
Yeah,
just
but
thinking
you can still run a Fury Warrior tank with a
shields.
shield.
Yeah, basically.
If you normally do that when you are taking too much damage, or like the first 10-15 seconds of a fight, just to generate enough threat and don't die, and then you switch to your one-hander.
So would it? You probably don't know, but would it be a possibility to make protection paladins like viable or even good in raid environments?
The news of Judgment of Wisdom not proccing on Seal of Righteousness is a huge hit, especially to prot paladins, and the people who have been investigating the prot tree and the builds are pretty bummed out, if I have to say. But definitely on the case of as a prot paladin stacking a lot of spell power gear, whilst maintaining the aspects of getting as close to defense cap as possible and everything, that would be ideal. But yeah, the mana sustains issues is a big problem.
So mana is always, actually, in my opinion, mana has always been the biggest problem for a protection paladin, more so than taunt, especially in raids. But yeah, it's solved in the Burning Crusade, but not in vanilla, right? So
I would be so bold to say that the discovery of self-righteousness not proccing Judgment of Wisdom is a bigger death to prot paladins than it is a Spelladin.
Okay, right.
If you're running a Spelladin and you're having a prot warrior in the guild, what is the shield you use to regain mana on every hit? Could it be enough to sustain the prot paladin?
I would not know that, actually.
Because that could maybe be viable then, because you're gonna use that one, and what's it called? The light. I don't remember. Seed of Light, isn't it? That's the healing one.
Yeah.
And what is the other one called?
Seal of Wisdom.
Yeah, Seal of Wisdom. That might be enough to maybe sustain a prot paladin if they have mana issues.
True, but then there's also the threat issues. I'm no expert in the prot build, by the way, but this is just coming off a general idea. If you sacrifice the damage from Seal of Righteousness, unless you have a guild or raid or a dungeon group capable of adapting to the lack of threat you'll be producing, sure, you can do it. But how much viable is it then compared to having a warrior, for example? Because is the time you're going to be taking setting up all that threat just for your DPS to be able to dump some damage, is that worth it? Just because the paladin has to regen mana.
Just use Taunt, Kappa.
You had to go there.
I had to go there, paladin for you.
So there's a question in chat from Arcanal. If you have multiple paladins in a raid, would it be wise to use multiple ranks of Crusader and judge them to have even more holy damage?
That's a great question, and we hoped it worked like that, but it doesn't.
Oh.
On the latest beta build, I think, or with the previous beta build, we tested different ranks of Seal of the Crusader, Judgment of the Crusader, sorry, and they didn't stack, unfortunately.
Oh, that's
But if you wanted to do that, let's say it's stacked, that means you will also take more debuff slots, right?
Yeah, but if you were to do that, it would be in a scenario where you would have to sacrifice a lot of other classes, and you'll be having less debuffs occupied at any given point in time. So there would be room for it. And it would be pretty memey. There would be so much holy damage. It would be hilarious.
It would actually be cool if we did that in the guild, like made a bunch of paladins and leveled it up as an alt, and took an alt one with them, and just paladins all the way.
what is like the average DPS a Spelladin should do in Molten Core?
That's a great question. And while we have some numbers, especially Dexter Bravo, he has a few videos on the pre-best in slot gear. And on a single target fight in a pre-best in slot gearing process, and with a fair amount of consumables, but not every, just not all of them, he's averaging around 500 to 600 DPS.
Mm-hmm. How does it compare with a rogue, for example?
I believe it was Kargas. He made a video, or was it Tips Out? He made a video on the average DPS from every class in the MC phase, and it was ranging from like 230 or 40 up to around just on the higher end of 400.
So it would be a lot higher.
Yeah, Hammer just came in and saved the day. He shows me here. Let me quote, in Tips Out's parse ranking video, 4 weeks into MC, the average DPS is 477 for warriors, 429 for rogues, 361 for hunters, and 359 for mages, and then locks at 264.
Right.
And we didn't know the ends and quirks of how Tips Out made that test, so we can't really conclude anything out of it, because was it based on boss plus trash, or was it the entire raid, or was it all boss only? But yeah, it's definitely interesting seeing that we can get numbers up to like 500 or 600 in pre-best in slot gear in MC, where we have numbers from supposedly the best DPS classes in the game.
But that would be on a private server, so
Yes.
what exactly changes on the beta which makes your DPS go lower than that?
The proc of Shadow Oil, Seal of Righteousness, is calculated in the sheets based on the private servers to be able to proc Shadow Oil, and it doesn't do that on the beta. So we lose a little bit of damage there, and then the fact that there's different coefficients, spell power coefficients on the ranks and spells. And why I say ranks is because there's a little issue right now where rank 3 of Seal of Righteousness has a higher spell power coefficient than that of the higher ranks. So we may see a situation. Nice. Dude, you almost gave me a heart attack. Holy shit. Oh man. Yeah, but we may see a situation where a rank 3 Seal of Righteousness is our go-to in as damage.
So are you feared that the DPS will go as low as it's not even viable anymore?
I mean, considering that we're seeing numbers of like 500 to 600, and if we just subtract the just let's say 25% damage loss, it's still pretty good. And especially compared, in addition to the loot distribution and everything, and the ability to off heal with illumination, and yeah, there's so many things speaking for it.
So that's the damage for MC, right? You're talking about. How does it the paladin or the Spelladin stays on the DPS for the entire classic, all the different rates? Can it keep up, or does it drop down at any point?
There's a guy called Murtaugh. He rated on, I can't remember the name. Was it Elysium or something?
Yeah, Elysium.
Yeah. Anyway, it's a private server where he wasn't able to utilize the third. Maybe Nighthaven or something actually. Anyway, he wasn't able to utilize the third use of the MCP, and there's some consumables that didn't work, and there were some other issues, and he was ranking top 30 in the entire server, right? Amongst warriors and mages.
That's sick.
And it was something like 1400 DPS on some fights. In next mind, you could use extra and everything.
Next, yeah, okay. So it's actually viable until the end of Classic.
Yeah, and it gets really funny in next.
So you said that the pretty much the best gear is the tier 2 set, right?
Yeah.
So I would say if you have the tier 2 set, you will once BWL is over, you will drop down a little bit in compared to the other classes. Is that right?
There's going to be a plateau, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Whilst the other classes continue to grow in DPS, we reach our peak so much faster. So while we may reach our peak early in the raiding process, while the classes are going to utilize the entire span of the raid to get to that level, right? So you get more bang for the buck from a Spelladin.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, there's the issue of, well, you can always use tier 2.5, and then that opens up for what's it called, Hand of the Black Grasp or something, that drains mana on hits. So you can do some memes where you have 5/5 Avengers, and then you use 3 other slots, and it's slightly more DPS.
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty cool actually that the tier 2 set is the best in slot set for obvious reasons. Someone in chat also said Nightfall will increase your damage with 15% flat. Now, before this stream, we had a talk, and you were saying you would not mind swinging Nightfall yourself. Is that right?
Sounds so dirty when you say it. But yeah, I failed to run my argument for 2 Red Paladins, apparently in our officer meeting, which I would have wanted. Pretty much also because we have quite a few Red Paladins in the guild. So the idea of having to cycle through them is gonna be a bitch. Sorry, my language.
That's okay.
But yeah.
So.
But
yeah, go on.
There's the benefit of having to swing Nightfall is you're there for Nightfall, and you could still do pretty decent DPS, but the majority of your damage comes from MCP. There just isn't any better weapon.
Wouldn't it be better to, if your DPS is really like the numbers you said it can be, wouldn't it be better to let the Red Paladin swing Nightfall, or even an off tank or anyone
Definitely.
else?
If you have a regular AP Red in the raid, it would be preferable to have him swing the Nightfall.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say the damage works for Paladin as it does on private servers.
Mm-hmm.
And actually comparable to the other classes. Would it be okay to like maybe swap out a rogue or another warrior and then take another or 2 Spelladins in the raid?
That's something we can only answer once we see the numbers.
Okay.
In beta.
But it wouldn't affect on anything, would it? It's just melee DPS, right?
I mean, I would say the entire ordeal of having less loot competition and the ease of the gearing process for this build, you could definitely fare pretty well with multiple Spelladins. Especially if you start having, if you prioritize Judgment of the Crusader, for example, and you have the Spelladins in the same group, so they utilize Sanctity Aura together, and yeah, you can get some pretty stupid numbers, I think.
It's gonna be interesting to see when it goes live.
Yeah, I'm happy we decided to go with those kind of meme specs. Actually, it's quite interesting to see what it will bring. So the pre-raid biz gear, do you have a list of it, or how do you? What's the best gear? Yeah, can you go over it a little bit? Is it purely spell power that you need, or do you need something else?
It's a little bit of a mix, especially for the pre-best and slot settings. But let me take it from here.
Can you link it to us so we can see it?
I'm doing it. There we go.
Work harder, faster, something.
That's Dexter Bravo's post on ClassicWow.live.
Mm-hmm. ClassicWow.live, by the way, guys, has quite a lot of interesting stuff on it. There are quite a few guides on it, and it's actually just a good site, so just check it out if you didn't do it yet. Right, so yeah, you can go over it if you want.
Right. For the helm, you would want to go engineering, so you can get the Spell Power Goggles Extreme Plus.
I will link it in chat as well, so follow it. Yeah. Okay, go on.
Before we okay, we have the helmet there. Then I have a question for it. If you don't want to go engineering, what alternatives do you have? Where can I see? Where can I find those? I don't see any alternatives.
I'll slap him and say you should definitely bring up some alternatives. But yeah, who
Yeah,
doesn't use engineering? But yeah, that's a valid question.
It's the only item from engineering you need. I see.
Yeah.
Yeah. But engineering will help you with your DPS as a paladin as
If
well.
you're rich, or you're very lucky, you could just get Lionheart Helm.
Would that be better?
No, but it's only slightly worse. So yeah.
Okay, he's actually typing in chat here that the entire guide will be re-ramped before classic launches. There should be will be alternatives. Don't worry. Okay, that's good to know. Because it's really nice. Because me and Nish, we made the Fury and a Prod Warrior pre-biz list as well, with a lot of alternatives. Like some gear you already get through leveling, and then like 1 to 2 days after hitting 60, you can have like this gear if you're some kind of decent lucky, etc. So that would be nice to see that you actually have different kind of gears you can actually mix and match in between. So if you don't have the luck to farm this dungeon for 200 times and not getting it, it would be nice to see, okay, I can actually get this one here. So that's going to be nice to see.
He's doing some great work. Let me say that.
Yeah.
I mean, my idea was to just play regular, normal Retribution, because that was my dream. I was playing a rogue in vanilla, rated a bit, and then when I saw paladins running around in tier 2, I was like, damn, I wish that was me. And when I had the chance to do that over now with classic, I just jumped in with both legs. And then seeing Dexter Bravo's video, and I was instantly hooked.
Where wasn't that one of the colors? Like the one of the set that was a weird color for Paladin, wasn't like pink or something, or is it Burning Crusade? I'm thinking.
That's
The tier sets.
That's not in vanilla anyway.
Okay, then there might be a BC that they had the pink one that looked like a cotton flower.
Yeah.
Awful.
I will put Classic WoW Live guides over the screen. So the first item we were talking about is the Spell Power Goggles. So yeah.
And about the helm actually, and about the goggles, Dexter just helped me, saying that the guide was made for private servers, right? And we know this. But with the beta changes coming, the phase 3 gearing process seems to be a bit more hybrid. So I have Ren, for example, is going to be a very viable option, and it's totally fine to use. And the gear is becoming easier to gear, actually. To get. Sorry, yeah.
So the next piece is for the neck, a Mark of Forging. So there's no spell power or anything on it. So how do you explain this?
No, but there's hit chance on it and AP. Obviously,
it's crit.
It's crit. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. You see, as I said, I'm not the expert, but yeah, it also has attack power, and your white damage hits gains benefit of attack power as well as self command, for example. So yeah, it's not useless.
I see. So there's not a single neck piece with spell power on it, which is better than this one.
There may be. I haven't seen it discussed. I may have missed it in the Discord. But there's, if you can get a spell power neck with crit chance as easily as Mark of Forging, you can use that.
All right. So the next few items are, I think, kind of straightforward, right? So they are all items with which have spell power on it. So
apparently there's 0 spell damage next in phase 1.
Oh, I see. That explains.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I didn't really see how these spell power goggles would be better than Lionheart Helm. But if there's no spell power necklace, that explains a lot. So
Yeah,
Right.
you want as much spell power as possible.
So the bracers are kind of the same. You have hit and crit on it. Is that because of the hit chance? Or both? Probably.
Sorry again, I was reading.
Yeah. The bracers, Battleborn arm braces.
Yeah.
They also don't have spell power on it, so it's hit and crit chance. Is that the more important stat then to start with?
Hit chance isn't as important to the Spelladin as it is to other classes, mainly because we swing so fast. And some guy, I can't remember who it was, but in the sheets, it turned out to be if we hit the hit cap, it would only turn out to be a very marginal DPS increase compared to what we'd be losing actually.
What is the hit cap for Spelladin?
The same as everybody else, 9.
Okay.
Should probably first show the weapon you were talking about. Where is it? It's not here. Okay, never mind. So where were we? Bracers, right? Yeah, there. Okay, then for hands, it's an obvious pick, I guess, with damage and healing done. And then the belt is also again with hit chance, so there's also no belt with spell power on it.
I have a question for you for the hands afterwards.
Okay.
Continue. Oh
yeah, I would assume not. Yeah.
Let's go with the hands.
Would it be better to use the ones that gives increased what's it called? Give me a second to find out. It's Masters handguards with the increased weapon damage for maces. Would it give more DPS than the 26 spell damage if you're using a crowd pummeler?
That has been tested, and it turned out to be less than Hands of Power.
Okay.
If it's on the list right now, it's there. This has been tested. The Edge Master's hand, whatever, has been tested. Yeah. And well, it may be a scenario for if you're deciding to roll a dwarf paladin, for example, it may be worth getting those instead of Hands of Power.
Yeah, because then you get the more.
And I'm a complete idiot. And of course, Edge Master's handguards does not give mace skill. And you'll be swinging MCP, and that's a mace.
Am I drunk? I'm drunk. Never mind. It's axes. I thought it was maces. I just.
Yeah.
Then it's never mind.
Yeah.
All right.
So as I said, if it's on there, it's been tested, and it's turned out to be the better option.
Okay. So just follow the list, I guess.
Yeah. And obviously, it's bound to be changed up before Classic launches, with more data.
Okay, that's quite interesting. Just going to have a quick look. Yeah, Papa MooNN, if you have a question.
I'm looking at everything and I see there is some cloth in there. How does that affect your solar capacity? How much damage are you taking? Since you don't have that much armor, because there's some cloth in there.
I wouldn't say. I haven't tested it personally because I haven't been able. Well, I don't have the beta and I just don't have the gear pieces. But I would assume it's not that big of a problem. And considering the amount of spell power you'll be getting, you'll be healing more potently as well. So a single heal will still top you off, for example, compared to a couple of heals as AP red.
Okay.
Let's have a quick look to the weapons. So, worst to best, it says. That means that the manual crowd pummeler, yeah, that was the one I was looking for. So that's actually way better than anything else you can get, right?
Yeah.
And is it ever replaced, ever in any raid?
I don't think so. Even if you were able to get Ashbringer, you would still be wanting to use MCP on cooldown.
Okay, so that's actually the hero of the spec. This makes it all possible, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But no, I wouldn't say it makes it possible. It makes it better. Because if you felt lazy and just went for an iron foe, or if you could get Thunder Fury as a Spelladin, good luck. By the way, hint, hint, guys. You could be doing that and still perform pretty decently and still be average DPS. I mean, better than what we would assume a Retribution Paladin to be, right? So it's still perfectly fine if you could get away if you were lucky to get Iron Foe or Thunder Fury or Hungering Cold, but good luck getting that from every other melee and warriors.
Just to be complete with this, so what is the cooldown on the unused effect of the manual crowd pummeler?
15 seconds cooldown, I think. Don't quote me on that. And there's a 15 seconds cooldown, and there's a 30-second duration.
Wow. Okay.
And 3 charges.
Okay. So
oh shit, there's 0 cooldown on it, so
no
only
cooldown.
click it once. Yeah.
Wow.
But 30 seconds duration.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it drops in No More Gone, right?
Exactly, yeah. So it's
No
easy
More
to
Gone
farm.
of all places.
Yeah.
I
love that dungeon.
Yeah.
You're gonna hate it before Classic is midway. I just know it.
Just to have an idea, what would be like the DPS difference if you have Iron Foe instead of the MCP? If
2
you have any
seconds.
idea.
Should we wait for Moon?
No, go on.
All right. I think I'll have to have Hammer help me on this one. He knows this better than I. But I think it was somewhere around 10% loss compared to MCP. I mean, it's quite significant. But it's still not game breaking.
The gameplay kind of changes when you play with MCP, so to me it sounds, to be totally honest, to me it sounds less interesting to play with the MCP than to play with like Ashbringer.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a downside for me personally to the spec.
And I'll say for the sake of our guild as well, if I were to happen to receive the Ashbringer, because it's on there.
If it should happen.
Yeah. It's on there for better weapons for this Paladin. Especially if it scales, we're gonna see bonkers DPS, right? It's gonna be pretty good. Then I'd be happy to get away with farming 7 to 10 hours a week for getting MCPs. I mean, you would be bringing 10 to 15 per raid. And
Okay.
it doesn't have a 50% drop chance as it does on private servers. It's like 25. So yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's your choice to play the spec, right? So
Yeah.
Oh, Yuno, I just found a doctor.
Ah, thanks.
The doctor.
Hey, a good
Hey, I'm a funny
Hey.
guy. Okay, I'm sorry.
yeah, someone in chat asked what happens if you use all the 3 charges on the MCP, but I think you kind of answered it. So
Yeah, well, then you just go back to the weapon you were using before. You don't use MCP on trash, only on boss fights.
okay.
So yeah, if you use up all the charges and the boss is still alive, you just swap back to the weapon you have.
But the charges are gone forever. Is that right?
Yes, and the weapon is deleted. Well, yeah, it's not deleted, but it's unusable
Yeah, I see.
after.
It's interesting, quite interesting. So, is
So
there?
you're gonna have fun.
Yeah.
I have to add one thing for the MCP. The reason why it's so strong is we have figured out that at least Seal of Righteousness, it scales based on weapon speeds, right? So if you have a weapon with 2 speed or a 4 speed, it would deal more damage on the higher weapon speed weapon. But as it seems right now, the haste effect does not impact this in a negative way. So since MCP is a 210 speed weapon or 240, the damage on Seal of Righteousness is set to that, but it doesn't get reduced when you proc the 50% haste. So you would be swinging the normal Seal of Righteousness damage at 50% faster.
Okay. That's interesting.
It also gets even more stupid once you can take Scroll of Binding Light, for example. Trinket.
But that's not in the previous.
No. That's later on.
Yeah. All right.
Is the meta guide for the raid gear you need to acquire? Or do we only have the previous gear list?
I'm sure there will be a more palpable guide coming out from Dexter as well. We have some sheets, some documents in the Discord where we have some gearing process and gearing priorities based on the phases. And I believe Dexter has a phase 3 gearing video as well, actually. Yeah, he has a second video for the phase 3 best in slot.
Okay. Good. I think we went over most of the builds. Papa MooNN, is there something you want to ask which is not clear yet?
If I wanted to play a Spelladin, where can I find you guys? Where can I talk to you? Where can I get ideas and help?
I'm not sure. Dexter, can I show the Discord? Or is it mainly just for the theory crafters? Alright, yeah, he gave me permission. You can find us here.
Okay.
And we discuss everything Paladin in there. Prot, Ret, Spelladin, farming routes, leveling routes, gold making potentials, everything.
Just quick, how do you, if you want to make gold on the Spelladin, do you say you need an alt character, or can you actually do it on it?
You can do it just fine.
Okay.
Yeah. Just have some tanking pieces, and then just farm DM East.
Okay.
Yeah.
Someone
may have to.
Holy shit, Tom! You're loud now. What do you do?
Someone said it's really low, but
no, my ears are bleeding now. Do that. God damn it! 1%.
Let me change it again.
Next time, warn me, please. You're down to 2% now.
You don't get to complain. You made this thing with the boom arm earlier.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it again. Do you want to?
Right. How's it now? How is it now?
No, mind.
Is it better?
It's fine.
Okay. Yeah, you're down to 1%. It's fine.
Right. So he's the main tank in our guild. So if you want to have a main tank like that, please join us.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. Woo!
Okay. So that makes my idea about the Spelladin a little bit. Well, how do I say it? It put things into perspective, I guess. The crowd pummeler, I forget how important it was. So that's something I wouldn't like to use all the time. So it's not a spec for me. I would rather go with a pure retribution build, I guess. But it's still quite interesting to see what you can do if you use the right items and right spec and right weapon, basically. So it's an interesting idea.
You definitely have to have a sort of mindset when you want to go this route. And as Dexter says, you have to treat the MCP as just another consumable rather than an item you have to farm for.
If I'm not mistaken, I'm pretty sure Feral Druids also use the crowd pummeler.
Yes, it's
we
true.
do.
It's true.
We do. Are you also a druid?
I was about to say two things, right? In
Are you a wizard, Harry?
And I said them at the same time. What I meant was that they do, and I have druids in the guild who are planning to be joining me on the farm. So we'll be doing the different instances, but we'll be over voice and having a good time.
So you're gonna make a bet. Who get the 10 first?
Could do that and then make extra gold.
Yeah. Just for fun, just to see how fast can we do it actually.
Exactly. Yeah.
I just got 2 now. How many do you have?
So, okay. I think, except if you have more questions or you want to talk about something else, I think we are done, right?
I think we are. Except if anybody else in the chat have any question for Spelladin.
Yeah, that was my prerogative too. Anybody else has any questions?
In the meantime, I'm going to link to our own guild Discord as well. I linked the Discord you send us.
Link it in the Discord here also, so I can share it on the Twitch.
Yeah.
Because apparently I'm not allowed to invite people.
No?
No.
Wow.
I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna let you get aggro, don't worry.
I have to comment quickly from Dexter as well about his guides. There will be gearing process and just gear sets for every phase in the guide. So just be sure to check the guide out, and it'll get updated.
So there you go. Okay. So we had like 30 viewers, so that's not bad for a first stream, I think.
No, it's okay.
Yeah,
that was pretty good.
Right, so I think we can round this up. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh, there's one question. Can a Spelladin out-TP as a spell hunter?
I would be bold and say yes. I mean, I haven't seen any numbers from the spell power hunters yet, so I wouldn't say for sure. But I would say, coming from a meme spec, I would say that spell power hunter is more memey than Spelladin.
So when Classic comes out, we're gonna have a face-off, right? Spell Power Hunter and Spell Power Paladin.
Dude, if Muzz is going spell power hunter, we're gonna be having bets going on.
It's gonna be fun to see. Maybe we should, Tom. Maybe we should pick that up in the next video. Spell Power Hunter.
We could do that. Yeah, there are quite a few interesting things to discuss. So, could be Spell Power Hunter, can be Boomkin. We can also
Melee
do...
Moonkin.
Yeah.
Oh, Melee Moonkin. Yeah, that could.
Yeah.
Melee Moonkin. Yeah, we can also do something normal, like a priest.
There's nothing fun about that.
Well, there are some interesting
Melee
things.
Priest. Let's go.
Smite Priest.
So I think we should probably do like a meme spec 1 week, and then the week after a normal spec, and then go with the meme spec again. I don't know. What do you guys think about it?
I actually think there's more meme specs than there is regular specs.
Yeah, that's
It might be a thing,
possible.
actually.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to realize that there's so much light shined on the regular specs. So I mean, everybody has heard one thing or the other all the time, constantly. So I think, well, the meme specs may be interesting too.
Yeah, I was thinking of inviting Cargos or Deathcamp or Meldron to talk about Hunter, Priest, and Shaman, obviously. So
You Americans.
Yeah.
You should ask Melderon about spell power shamans. There's some shamans in our Discord that are coincidentally happening to be testing out how spell power gear, similar to how the Spelladin works, just on shamans with Wind Fury and everything, and they're getting some pretty fun numbers.
That's interesting. He probably has a lot to say about that. So
yeah.
Okay, I think we can round up. So thanks for watching and thanks for coming, Juno.
Yeah, we are gonna be live on next Sunday again, right?
Sunday. Let me check. Sunday is probably a hard. Yeah,
You have vacation. You have time every day. Don't do that.
I play golf on Sunday. But maybe in the evening. In the evening should work. Yeah,
evening at what, 7?
That's too early. Probably 8 or 9.
I'm fine by me. I'm gonna be up the entire night anyway.
Okay. Yeah, Sunday. Let's say 8:30. We will be back.
Okay, 8:30.
That's good.
And thanks for having me.
Oh.
Yeah, thanks for coming,
Thanks
Juno.
for coming, man. Yeah. Okay. See you.
Yeah, see you guys.